Welcome back to Walsall Fan TV. The joy and the pain, all pain at the minute. We welcome the crew. We've got Frankie, Phil, Daz, and Darren. What a mess we're in. Just looking at the facts, Walsall still third in the automatic promotion slots. So all's good, eh? What do you reckon, Frank?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I say it's everything's going perfectly fine.
Phil, January. Oh, how can it happen to us every January?
Yeah, I know we'll probably dig a little bit deeper into what happened in January as we go through. It certainly didn't help. And I don't so much talk about the Nathan Lowe situation, because I think that was to an extent, well, that was out of our hands to an extent. Obviously, when Stoke came back and said we want him back, we didn't really have much of an option there. It's what we did afterwards that's the issue. The players that we brought in, and the thing that still amazes me is the fact that we've seen, what is it, about 8 or 9 minutes of Alfie Chang at Gillingham, and Lipscomb hasn't even been in the squad yet. And you just have to ask yourself, what was the point of that? I've got a mate, a friend of mine who's a Blues fan, and he messages me virtually every week saying, "Why are you not playing Alfie Chang?" He was when he was breaking through at Birmingham, he was doing stuff in the Championship for them. And you look at what's been going on in our midfield recently, and it is quite unbelievable that he's not getting a sniff. So yeah, January certainly didn't help, and I think we're reaping what we sowed in January at the moment.
Yeah, I think we are going to talk about Matt Sadler, but just sticking with January for a second. Daz, we tried to get Freddie Draper. I think if we'd actually got Freddie Draper, I think we'd have probably been okay. Ray's Cleary, that's going to be the worst timing for somebody going back that's possible. Ethan Wheatley has come in. We sort of threw him into the team and then sort of then almost forgot him. So Daz, the question is, what a collapse! What a mess!
It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Did he give up on Wheatley? Did he give up on Wheatley too soon?
Wheatley played 140 minutes before his cameo a couple of weeks ago. He probably did, although if he thought he was as oven ready as Lowe, or whoever recruited thought he was as oven ready as Lowe, they were badly mistaken. I'll be honest with you. At the end of January, when we got Harrison, it looked like they'd had a decent window, but there's clearly something awry. There's clearly an issue somewhere, because some of the players he is cast aside ruthlessly in many ways. Reyes Cleary is one of them. Cleary, once Lowe got in, Cleary never got a sniff. Wheatley, the same. The two number 8s, we all knew we needed number 8s. We knew we needed number 8s for weeks before the 31st of January. You have to wonder if there's an issue, because they're clearly fit by the fact that they've been playing games. Yeah. And he's either decided he doesn't want them or they're not good enough. And that has to be a breakdown somewhere between, whether it's the manager, recruitment, the club. There's something must have gone on.
Yeah, I think just we can't sort of talk about it too much, but Reyes Cleary, if we'd have given him minutes during the first half of the season, and he'd have wanted to stay, he'd have been a massive player for us right now. But it's just sort of, he'd been cast aside so much with so little attention. He was chomping at the bit to get out. I don't know where else he's gone, but I mean, it was one of them. Get me out of this nightmare.
Reyes Cleary is at Hartlepool at the moment. He's on loan at Hartlepool, and he has got a few goals for them in recent weeks.
Yeah, Ray's Cleary. He's an exciting player to watch. Darren, we got to come on to Matt Sadler. Now, I'm gonna summarise Matt Sadler. Now, don't anybody think I've been on the pot, because I haven't. I'm on the water, and there's no vodka in it. Matt Sadler, composed, unflappable, created a team togetherness, and he's given the team an identity. That's all true. And maybe his biggest failing is allowing us to lose our identity during the season. Tell us, Darren, now I know your viewers, tell us why we should keep Matt Sadler and not sack him.
Well, this is I think if he was gonna go, I don't. There's not. Trivella love him. I can't see any universe where he goes. If he was gonna go, it would have been last night or today or early tomorrow, because got a game Friday. You'd have to get someone in ASAP. If we lose Friday, we've got like 2.5 days until we go to Newport, and then it's the final game of the season. So, to be honest, I think, given the reaction, I mean, I know Daz went to Barrow, and I'm sure people who are watching as well went to Barrow and witnessed the scenes at the end. That wasn't togetherness. Not everyone, obviously, but there's a lot of anger. It feels to me, and I was talking to my friend Percy, and he made a good comment on this. I think if they want to unite everyone for the last 4 games and get out of the division, he's got to go, and they get someone in to get us across the line. I still think we'll do it, but as we said just before we came on air, the feeling is more relief. I think if we do it.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a while,
weeks, right? And I'm just going off. The only thing I've got going now is surely we can't lose the last 4. But I think Harrogate and Newport are in the bottom 6 recent form as well. So we've got no one else to blame but ourselves. But Sadler, I'm sure we'll delve into this a lot more. On this is the topic of the fan chat, really, isn't it? What do we do with Sadler? It looks to me like he stumbled on. I know some might not agree with this. It looks to me like this is what it looks like now, given the last 17 games, 2 wins in 17, no wins in 10. He stumbled onto something that worked effectively with Nathan Lowe, right? When that was taken away and he had to bring back his favourites, he hasn't got a clue.
Frankie, why should we keep Matt Sadler?
Well, to play devil's advocate, I would say it's probably not all his fault, because even like a really, really bad League 2 manager should be able to keep you up and get you promoted. So there's got to be something more behind the scenes if it was doing this bad. He still could get us promoted. And the biggest thing is, if we sack him, what then happens to the players? Because yes, everyone says we will get this managerial bounce, but because he's so close to the players, are we sure that is going to happen? Could this affect the players more sacking him than if we keep him? And it's one of those questions.
Okay, Phil, why should we keep Matt Sadler?
Up until a few weeks ago, I was certainly more in the Sadler in than Sadler out camp, but the last few weeks has swung it the other way for me now, to be honest. Just a couple of comparisons. I mean, yesterday had the feeling of Harrogate away under Michael Flynn. It had the feeling of Scunthorpe away under Matty Taylor. It had the feeling of Oxford at home under Dean Keach. You could give other examples. Gillingham away under Colin Lee, where the players looked lost, the manager looked lost. They didn't look like they knew what they had to do or what they were trying to do to get back into the game. The style of football has gone from like you said, an identity where we were letting other teams have the ball, we were pressing high, we were winning it back, to just lump it up to Jammer and see what happens. the selection and the substitutions in the last few weeks have very much had the feel of throwing up shit at the wall and some of it will stick. That seems to have been what's happened with the selection. And as I say, that he looked, the first time I looked at it yesterday, where I would say it looks like he's lost the players, and he certainly lost a lot of the supporters. And we know that when that happens at Walsall, when you lose the majority of the fan base, you're on borrowed time.
Phil, that was a positive. Why we're supposed to keep him.
The only thing that's saving him, the thing that's saving him, and the thing that's the exception that's different from the previous examples that I mentioned, is our league position. The fact that we are still third in the league, we are still very much in a promotion race, and we could still do it. We've got three very winnable games coming up against teams in the bottom 7. So no excuses anymore. We've got to get the job done, and that's what's saving him, because 14 points from 17 games is relegation form. It's sackable form. But fortunately for Sadler, what went before has left him in a position where he's got a bit of credit in the bank. But I haven't seen much in the last few games that's persuaded me or convinced me that we will get the job done.
Daz, why should we keep him?
I don't know. I'm not in or out. I'm kind of somewhere in between. I'm not in or out. I'm struggling to justify anything positive out of the last 17 games. I'm a great believer in sticking through the difficult spells, because consistency and continuation of a plan is normally the right way to go. If you chop and change all the time, your transfer windows start at one all the time. Yeah. Given the mess we made in January, I'm not sure that keeping him for a summer transfer window is necessarily the as good as it would have been a while ago. Apart from the fact we haven't got to pay him 2.5 years salary or whatever it is, and that is, if you do pull the trigger, you're effectively tied to somebody, and not just the manager, the coaching team as well. Yeah. You've got a lot of contract to pay up. I'm loath to say out, but I'm trying not to be either. I'm probably more out than in.
It seemed when they extended his contract in January, it seemed to be very poor timing, really. It didn't feel right. Say again?
It was reactionary. It was absolutely reactionary.
I think somebody had been questioning about him, looking for him because he's doing so well top of the league, and they just want to make sure they kept him, I think. But if, as Carl says here, it's going to be Groundhog Day if we don't go up, as half the squad will go, 13 out of contract. So I think, from my point of view, if a reason to not sack Matt Sadler would be going into the close season, that would be the time to make the change. I don't think a snap change now is going to help. I'd certainly grab hold of Richard O'Kelly and say, please, please, please come and unofficially take over for the last 4 games.
And what we put on that, Simon, like, it would probably have a negative impact for his favourites. Right? I believe there's a schism in that squad between it's almost the have and have-nots, right? I'm sure you'll touch on this later, but what's happening with Williams, I think, is absolutely ridiculous, right? You can't tell me that that's not causing like friction or stuff in and all these players are not, they're coming on loans, they're not getting picked, but they're just booted out as soon as a favourite. Josh Gordon will come straight in Friday. I'm convinced, right? That's like doomsday scenario. But it's probably a bad thing for the favourites, but I'm sure the non-favourites will be smiling, because just like Dad said earlier, something's not right. Like, you can tell. It's just the way they did look at Jellis on Saturday, the demeanour of them all. I know, obviously, we're in bad form, but it doesn't look, to me at least, like a cohesive squad. Like you wouldn't react like that or play like that.
Well, Connor Barrett, I think he only had one run into the opposition's half from my recollection.
And Simon, just on that, sorry, Simon, just quickly. Imagine if you're Nathan Asimwe, who's come in the last few weeks and looked a bright, like look at him how he played at Doncaster and stuff, looked a bright spark. As soon as we had that result last week, booted out. What is that going to do to your confidence and the confidence of your friends in that squad? So sorry to cut you off there, Simon. I
understand what you're saying. I think you're spot on. We're looking for creativity against Barrow, and I tweeted. I was just trying to look for the tweet. Outside of the 18, you got Chang, Wheatley, Ram, Asimwe, and none of them even in the squad. And Wheatley, Bright. So it doesn't make any sense to not have those players available. Yes, you can't have 9 on the bench, but they were all very defensive. I think Lee made a comment, on Twitter. We've got like 7 defensive players on the pitch in a game that we really needed to win. I think the biggest issue for me with what Matt Sadler's done is try to protect the lead by trying not to get beat. And he's settled for draws rather than trying to win matches. The Bromley one stands out for me. Bromley were there for the taking. If we'd have sort of just made the changes to go for it, I think we'd have beat them.
Can I just jump in on that one, Simon, please? Because
yes,
I know everyone's sort of talking about yesterday in particular and how that kind of... And yeah, look, don't get me wrong, yesterday was awful. But I want to take it back to the Port Vale game because that was the game that did for me. And in particular, the last 20, 25 minutes of the first half against Port Vale. Okay, we conceded early, which can happen in any game, but we reacted well to that. It was a real positive response. We got ourselves in the lead, should have increased our lead. We had a couple of opportunities to increase our lead. And we were playing on the front foot and we were worrying them. We were attacking them. Amanci was causing problems. We were getting the ball up to him and we had a really good period. Then it was like someone flipped a switch. And for the last 20, 25 minutes of the first half, we were dreadful. We lost our shape. We gave the ball away cheaply. We gave countless free kicks away to allow Port Vale to build momentum. We couldn't seemingly defend anything that was put into our box. The third goal was just a calamity from the moment Hornby threw the ball out to Liam Gordon, and then the rubbish ball inside, and then the lunge from McKenty. But there was nobody taking control of the game. We were winning an important game that we needed to get a result in, and nobody took control of the game. No. Nobody grabbed it by the scruff of the neck, and we lost our shape, we lost our discipline, we lost possession, we gave free kicks away, and we allowed Port Vale back into the game so easily. It was frightening. Now, that would not have happened under a Richard Money team. That would not have happened under a Ray Graydon team. And I know everyone's talking about it yesterday, but that was the and I said to my dad at half time, I said, we're done here. If that's how we're going to defend when we're winning an important game, we are really struggling.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The first part of that game, we were actually really good, and it was like, where's this come from? We were on fire, weren't we? And then
the response to going behind was very good, and we got ourselves in the lead. Should have increased it. Where Amanci should have squared the ball to Jellis, who had a tap in, and then there was another chance where Taylor Allen was in and just hesitated on a shot. But yeah, the 25 minutes that followed after that were an absolute shambles.
Coming back to Matt Sadler, I've got a list here of what I think his learning points are. If I was his mentor, the points the points I'd make for him to improve upon, ready for next season in League One. First one, didn't rotate to keep players fresh through the season. Stuck to the same team, wore players out, didn't rotate players to keep them fresh. Second one, stuck with players that needed a rest or were off form. Playing his favourites instead of the better players. Not using the squad. A Simwe, typical example. He only came into the side because Conor Barrett got injured. Otherwise, Conor Barrett would have played every single game with his leg hanging off. Ram, people have different opinions of Ram, but he's been playing consistently for Tamworth. He's got lots of energy. He's really good on the ball, can run with the ball. He's not even got a sniff. Chang, as we've already said, championship experience. He's a championship player and he's not getting a sniff in a League Two team that's struggling. And Lipswick, we haven't seen him, but he's not had a sniff of it either. The next one I've already mentioned, giving up on Wheatley too soon. And then DJ, you have an experienced centre forward like DJ and just don't play him. And then we look at Levi. Now this is the most maddening thing for me. In the press, in the build-up to Saturday's game, Matt Sadler said how impressed he was that Jamil, Matt and Levi had formed a really good partnership and it was blossoming. And then he drops Levi and don't play him. That just doesn't make sense for me. So if would you like to pick up on any of those that I've mentioned, Frankie? Any comment?
Well, the thing is, you said learning blocks. He should have had about 500 learning blocks by the end of last season, and he hasn't taken any of them and used them. The same carbon copy as last season. We got a bit of pressure on us, looked like we could do something good, and crumbled. And then he is the same thing. He has his favourites. He just doesn't play players when they're playing well. And he can't. He's a very bad tactical manager. He's a good people person, but take that away. There's no tactics. Again, yesterday, every fan on the stadium was just calling out to play the ball on the floor. We started to. We looked good. See if we started hoofing the ball again. We lost the game entirely. Against Port Vale, instead of defending by taking the ball under control and maybe taking the ball and using it and soaking up the pressure, he instead allowed our players to form a very deep back line in a first half where we only played about 20 minutes and let them soak up the pressure in a game where all we needed to do was take the ball under control, let their wave of shots go past us, soak it all up, move the ball around, maybe get a goal, and we would have been better off. But instead, he plays a football where we just hoof the ball and went straight to them. And then with Sadler yesterday.
Can I just jump in there a second? Why did now, Daz? You were there, so you tell me now. When Walsall were hoofing the ball up, I was watching it on the TV. In fairness, but I mean, was Matt Sadler screaming at them to stop hoofing the ball?
Don't think so. I think I think they had to go for 15 minutes after half time, and they moved the ball quite well 15 minutes after half time. But effectively, they just run out of ideas in the end, and it was the same. It was the same the Saturday before. It's been the same many times that there's no way through. Once they hit a wall in terms of not being able to get through the way they want to get through, just kind of hit it long. I mean, there was one occasion yesterday where I think it was McKenty. It doesn't matter who it was. McKenty has knocked it long and it's run out of play. And we get the ball back relatively quickly, and like 20 seconds, 30 seconds later, we do exactly the same thing, and you think you're completely out of ideas, completely and utterly out of ideas, and that's the lack of options when we go forward. And it wasn't so much a problem earlier in the season. We didn't have that much possession. We won the ball high, and we punished teams where we won the ball. Teams have learned. They've changed the way they play against us. Nobody passes it around the back because they know that when we did press, it was dangerous. And teams have changed and found us out a little bit. Just one thing that you mentioned earlier about rotation. You're right. I think he's slightly unlucky in the fact he did have Earing and Hall fit, and he was rotating those 2 8s every week. Then he lost Hall and Earing at the same time. And quite frankly, whether he didn't get the players that he wanted, or they're not good enough, or whatever, that has been a problem. Not the January kind of recruitment just exacerbated the problem he got in the fact he hadn't got Earing and Hall. You know, he can't play Hall for 90 minutes because he's frightened of him breaking down. I think the rotational one, I take a lot of what you just said. The rotational one, I think he was slightly unlucky. He may well have contributed in not using the players he got. They may not be good enough. I think he's deeper than that.
Yeah, I think as far as the rotation, I think one player, and I absolutely love him, Liam Gordon. But I mean, the guy is absolutely shot, both confidence and energy levels. Evan Weir, every time he's put a shirt on, he's done a good job for us. And then on Saturday, Asimwe can play left side or right side. So you got Asimwe, Evan Weir, Ronan Mayer can all play that role, and he plays Liam Gordon, who's already shattered before he starts the game. And then as the game went on, I hardly saw him throughout the game.
The key to this system is the 2 wing backs and the 2 8s. Okay, Low was exceptional, and Low was the icing on the cake. The difference between whatever we get and 100 points, because I think we'd have got 100 points. The 2 wing backs are out on their feet, you know, physically, mentally, out on their feet, and the 2 8s are the same. That is the issue. The key areas in the only system that he's got, and he has only got Plan A. Plan B is just stick to Plan A. The 4 players that are key to that system are all dead, literally, physically and mentally dead. And
Phil's mentioned this before. Playing wing back is a very demanding role, isn't it? And so you've got to use rotation. So,
we're back to the January recruitment though here, aren't we? Like, this is where we, like, as we discussed this in January, right? We knew that those 8s were a problem. This isn't hindsight. Go back to our January end of the transfer window fan chat on the night before. We were talking about 8s. We were talking about support for the wing backs. So this isn't like us, you know, like anyone's got this, you know, super hindsight. This is what we've been talking about for months. And I'm sure Daz will correct me, or Phil, or whatever, or yourself. But, you know, I go back to, you know, when we got promoted under money, we brought in experience, and under Graydon in the January. I know it's a bit later with February, March signings then as well. We brought in proper experienced players, to put Kevin Harper, for example, right? Yeah. Don Goodman to push us over the line, right? I think we were unbelievably complacent and almost arrogant in that January window, thinking we could get a few kids. Oh, I've got a small child behind me as well. We could get a few kids in and everything will be all right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think what we're talking about here is born out of that January window. There's no, but then again, would Sadler have played them? I don't know.
Phil, sort of touching on that, really. It was difficult at that point in January because we were doing so well. He couldn't really guarantee players a game if they came in. So I think that probably did restrict who we could bring in. But then the players he has bought in, he's not used anyway.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. He's brought players in that we've barely seen, and one that we haven't seen at all in the squad. And what frustrates me is that he keeps repeating it when he's interviewed after games. We're going to need everybody. He says it all the time, and yet he doesn't use everybody. Or he certainly doesn't use everybody. For me, in the way that he should. There's so many examples of it, and I said earlier on that his team selection, some of his substitutions recently have had a little bit of a, throw enough mud at the wall, and some of it will stick to it. I mean, we've already talked about Asimwe. To me, it was almost like he couldn't wait to take him off against Port Vale and get Barrett back on. He had a slightly indifferent first half, or perhaps not up to the standards that he'd been before. Bang, you're off and you're out the squad. Evan Weir the same. Not his best half in the first half against Vale. Bang, you're out the squad. Charlie Lakin, not in the squad against Port Vale. Back in the starting 11 against Barrow yesterday. There's so many examples we can look at. It just seems very random. Wheatley coming in from nowhere in the squad against Port Vale, and then he puts him on the pitch before DJ, which I'm sorry, for me is just daft. So we can talk about how, yeah, okay, it may have been difficult for him to persuade certain players. There may have been players who looked at it and thought, well, yeah, I might be on the bench. I might have to work my way into the team. But there are players there that he's not using, and I think I agree with what Darren just said. I think there was a little bit of arrogance from us in thinking we're all right. We've got what we need. We'll be okay with maybe just a few additions here or there. I think we were naive. Yeah,
I think that's probably fair.
A player, and sorry, just to add to that, talking about experienced players coming in. A player that I think was massively undervalued or underrated when he came in the grade and promotion season was Nick Henry, a player that came in and did an absolutely brilliant job in midfield for those last 10 games. So quality. A player like him coming into the team now would make a world of difference.
I think what we're going to touch on as well, I think, is it possible to play 3-5-2 high press for the whole season?
Nope. I said in September, October on this fan chat as well as on UTF. Again, not hindsight. I'm unsure whether we can keep this up all season. And Sadler only knows how to play one way, which is that 3-5-2 press with the eights and the wing backs pushing up. Anything else, you look at, changed it to a 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. Won't happen. So Daz mentioned it a few minutes ago. Another thing for your midterm report or end of season report for Sadler would be the lack of a plan B. Right. We saw it with Dean Smith, if you remember, as well. There was the odd game where he'd switch to a back three.
Yeah.
Right. For that particular game for the opposition, he'd switch it around. If he just doesn't have a plan B. I mean, you can have the same formation in a different way of playing. So it's not just down to the formation. It's, are you hitting the wingers first? Are you going through the middle? Are you playing through the thirds? Are you getting rid of it quick? We just have one way of playing. And that, for me, just adds to whatever Daz was saying a few minutes ago.
Frankie, our poor possession stats, I think, has probably caught up with us. I think what Darren's quite rightly mentioned there, when we're knocking it down the channel, the high press, knocking it down the channels, that's sort of almost straight for the jugular. The ability to pass it round and keep possession. We just can't keep possession, can we?
I think, yeah. Well, as far as start of the season, we hit him long and we hit fast, but we're also quite critical, and we knew what we did. We had a plan to attack. The problem is now we don't have a plan to attack. So we used to be able to soak up the pressure of the defence and have a plan to attack when we'd attacked with the wingers, and so the possession didn't really matter. because we score goals. And that's the only stat that really matters in a football match. But then, against nowadays, the possession stats aren't the worst thing that we need. It's the thing, because if we don't have a defence that can soak up the pressure, we need to keep the ball, which we can do by having the ball, and we need to score goals. And if we can't get like a good chance every single time we attack, we need to have the ball more often to make more and more chances where we can score from. And so nowadays, the possession is what we need. And what we used to, possession didn't matter because we were scoring. And that's the problem at the moment.
I think the reason I say that is because when things aren't going well, or when you're trying to hold on to a lead. So myself and Frankie went to the academy report, and they talked about playing the same way, regardless of the score, all the way through the academy. So if you're under the cosh in the last 10 minutes of a game, 1-up, they just carry on playing the same way. And what I said with that's great, and I understand why you're doing that, but surely that can't be for the first team. But that does seem like what's happening with the first team. Where's the plan B? There ain't one, is there?
There was one point on Saturday, I think, in the first half where first of all, as we know, possession isn't everything, but it is something, right? They had 80% possession at one point in that first half, about 25 minutes in, right? We couldn't get the ball. Look at their goals, right? Forget which way around it was, the first or second. Moving the ball, spreading it, going back, we are just incapable of playing that way. We're just incapable. I don't know whether I think the players are good enough, right? They're professional footballers, right? Should be able to control and pass the ball. We are not coached to play in any other way.
Daz, react to that.
I don't think we passed the ball well enough. I thought yesterday we ended up playing like teams played against us in October, November, December. When we had the ball, we kind of knocked it around. We played in front of Barrow, knocked it around. The back five knocked it sideways, kind of tried to nudge it forward. Goal kick, 7 passes to the halfway line, knock it back to Daniels, or knock it back to Taylor Allen, and then the diagonal ball comes in that goes like out for a throw-in. And that's exactly what we were making teams do to us in the first half of the season, and we've ended up replicating it ourselves. As for the first goal yesterday, we're supposed to be high press, we're supposed to be high energy. That was the exact opposite of high press and high energy. It was just, there must have been 15 passes, not one challenge. And I tweeted earlier, the biggest frustration when I think back to it is it took us 91 minutes to get a yellow card yesterday. And that was for a cynical stopping Barrow, kind of taking a quick free kick. You're kind of all over the place in the first half. You can't get anything going. You can't change or rattle Barrow. Take a yellow card, clatter somebody, change the dynamic of the game. And the fact that we went all afternoon without putting a foot in was probably tells you more about the performance than anything else.
Yeah, it was just very passive, wasn't it? It was just very passive. Comment here from Three Little Birds. The players look clueless with the tactics. If hoofball doesn't work, we have no plan B.
Hoofball is plan B, isn't it?
I'm plan C.
I guess.
Simon? Can I just on one thing? Just I know you went to the academy evening and they talk about style and whatnot. You know, I've been involved in a bit of football coaching at few levels in the past, and I'm going to try not to. I'm not going to get up on my soapbox on this one because it could go on for hours. I won't bore you with my opinions, but I think there's a lot of crap talked about style and aesthetics in football. An effective manager gets the best out of the players that he's got, and he plays the style that best suits the players that he's got. And I know that obviously managers will bring in certain players to fit a particular style, but I don't actually think there's anything wrong with playing direct football if it's effective. And I thought there was a clear difference between what we were doing and what Port Vale were doing. in the game against Port Vale, because Port Vale were direct. But the difference was they played good quality balls into Jayden Stockley, who 9 times out of 10 won the ball and laid somebody else in. And there was other players in position to pick up his layoffs and his flick-ons. Now, that, for me, is a perfectly effective way of playing if that's the way you want to do it. And it's clearly working for them at the moment. The issue is that we're not doing that. We are just hoofing it into an area and hoping that something comes off. So, I understand what you're saying, and I think it's the way that football's gone, particularly coming through academy levels, is that you have to play a certain way, you have to get the ball on the deck, and you have to play it. But I think one of the things that's fallen down recently, and I think Daz has just touched on it, is that actually the quality of our midfielders does actually stump that massively. And I think in particular, we talked about the 2 number 8s, Jellis and Lakin. They've got loads of energy. You can't knock them for their effort, but I think their lack of quality has been exposed in recent months.
Jamie Jellis, earlier in the season, was massive quality. We remember the goal he scored against Grimsby, and that was typical of the kind of performances he was putting in. It seems at the minute that nothing he tries seems to come off. So what has happened just with Jamie Jellis?
I'll go just a quick answer to that one. I think it's his first season as a professional. He's shattered because he's played pretty much, since that Earring and Hall rotation period that we talked about has gone. A lot of the pressure has been on him. It's his first season, so I can understand why he's, a bit shocked, to be honest with you. So for me, it's down to mental, physical fatigue. To be honest,
just emotionally exhausted as well as physically. Yeah,
he scored that Saturday, right?
Yeah, confidence. He goes
yes.
Say again, Frankie.
His confidence against Grimsby, he had the confidence to shoot, but he hasn't got the confidence to shoot anymore. And it's most of the players don't have that confidence. That is the main problem, their confidence. And every player losing their confidence at the same time has just caused his team to.
Yeah. I think one thing I'd say about Jamie Jellis as well is I think in certain games, and I think this was noticeable in the first half against Port Vale, he's almost trying too hard in some games. Yeah. He needs to.
He is absolutely.
He needs to just rein it in a little bit.
Yeah.
The maddening thing is we've got Alpi Chang, who does have creative ability, and he's good on the ball, just completely kicked out the squad. How we can play Brandon Comley, right, over him, I just find it, I can't explain. It's like an alternate universe. I don't understand.
Well, in front of, I missed that, in front of who?
In front of, how Comley's playing in front of Alpi Chang for me.
Oh, well, Chang just played the CDM role.
Yeah, he can play. He's good. He's a good player. He's played in the Championship. Brandon Comley's played the majority of. Don't want to go too hard on Brandon Comley, right? He's done a good job for us. But when you've got him and a bit of, we talked about creativity a few minutes ago, right? Why aren't we? If it was up to me, I would be getting, again, this won't happen. No chance of this will happen. I would be getting in the squad now, into that 11, as much as I could. Players that have been unaffected so much or unscathed from the last 3 months. I'd get Ram to that squad. Chang, Hall, Asimwe, Williams, I get back in. All these players that do
Wheatley.
have Wheatley, get them in.
And Levi.
And this, how can it be any worse? They're shot. And by the way, I know that won't happen. just to clarify.
Well, the thing is, I think I'll add to that as well. Evan Weir in for
exactly
on that left-hand side.
Yeah, I think he's been unscathed. He hasn't come out of this period badly for me.
Daz. We can't say Matt Sadler's not tried anything different. He got Evan Weir in and moved Tyler Allen into midfield, and I think that was working. But then why did he just scrap that and go back to Tyler Allen as left-sided centre half again? Why do you think he went back to that?
The first half of Port Vale. against Port Vale. I think he went back to what he trusted. I think we talk about creativity, but we shouldn't lose sight defensively. That is the problem. That is the biggest problem of all. I think we kept one clean sheet since Boxing Day. We had a big week where we played Wimbledon and Doncaster, Port Vale. We needed to score 6 goals to get 3 draws.
Yeah.
You've got to, every single week, virtually, we're conceding. Just having a look. Barrow scored 2 yesterday. Vale scored 3. Doncaster scored 2. Bromley got 2. Grimsby got 3. Cheltenham got 2. We're having to score 3 goals to win, and we're conceding soft and often early as well. I tweeted yesterday, we've been in the lead for 61 minutes since Cheltenham, which was 10 games ago.
Yeah.
Of which 30 was last Saturday against Port Vale, and we still lost. We're shipping goals at such a rate. I think he's gone back to, well, the Williams question aside, he's gone back to kind of what he kind of knew and, in inverted commas, trusted. I think it's wider than that, for what it's worth. I called the Taylor Allen at Doncaster. I thought that's exactly what he'd do, because he's very conservative. And again, I thought he'd go back to Taylor Allen in defence for the Port Vale game and beyond. The lack of ability to keep a clean sheet is what is massively undermining us. We're scoring enough goals.
Obviously not on Saturday, I mean, but yeah, it is largely the defence. I think it was an interesting choice to put Tommy Simpkin back in goal, but I think he justified that change. I thought Tommy Simpkin was excellent. He was my Lee Moore Winders man.
He was. I think Barrett took some stick earlier from someone. I thought Barrett was okay yesterday. I think the goals come from the other side. He was gone by the time we fell to pieces.
Yeah.
But Simpkin made 3 good saves yesterday. He was completely blameless. I think Barrett did okay, but the others, yeah.
Yeah, I think Liam Gordon desperately needs a rest, doesn't he? I understand what you're saying about with Evan Weir against Port Vale, but that's a very rampant Port Vale against, let's be honest, not such a rampant Barrow. So perhaps. But
I have a historical problem with playing centre halves in midfield, especially as an 8. I get that one in there early. But it's confused, isn't it? Like, I think for me, in those 8 positions, you need someone with agility, speed, can press. If that's the way we're playing, like, for all Alan's been superb as that, probably player of the season. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. I think he's been player of the season for me. In that rock, because he underlaps. The amount of goals we've scored from him underlapping and getting crosses in, superb. I think McKenty can do that as the outside. He hasn't shown that much this year, but I think it was a confused, let's, like Bill said earlier, let's put Alan in there. Yeah, okay. Oh no, and then we had that particular period with McKenty back as an 8. It's just, there's no plan. It's just, let's just change it, and that'll work. And Dad said it's conservative. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh dear.
I mentioned Kinsella soon, but
Jamie Ward saying Jamie Ward, it's not a relative. Walsall don't want promotion. We have a poor budget for this league, 18th to be exact. Promotion costs money, and Travella would prefer to spend it on other clubs.
Simon, based on the way the results have been going, does anybody want promotion apart from Port Vale? Everyone's falling over themselves not to pull away, aren't they? At the moment, the way the results are going.
Well, the thing is, I think that we're not going to finish top 3 with 4 draws, but we probably won't need that much to finish top 3. Doncaster Salford, of course, on Tuesday is an interesting one. If Salford beat Doncaster, then it's still in our own hands for top 3.
There's also Bradford, Doncaster thing as well coming up. So
Yeah, Bradford got Doncaster as well. Yeah.
Well, Doncaster's last 2 games are Bradford and Notts County, I believe.
That's it,
And I'm pretty sure, I think it might be Bradford against Notts County on Thursday night before the Good Friday games, I think.
That's right. Yeah, Bradford, Notts. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, teams will take points off each other as they have been doing. But as I said previously, it's not about other teams. It's about us. It's about our form. We need to sort our own form out. It doesn't matter what other teams do. If we keep losing, doesn't matter. But you know, the frustrating thing is that two wins might be enough for us.
That was going to be my question, Phil. Like, what do we think?
Yeah.
For these 4 games, how many points do we think?
I think if we win 3 of the last 4, I think we're up. But what is there to suggest that we're going to do that based on the last few games? You know, we're going from winning 2 out of 17 to saying that we're going to win 3 out of 4.
I personally think 2 wins, 2 draws might just do it. I think. But I don't know what the others think. What do you think, Simon?
I don't know where another win's coming from. We just don't look like we can win anymore.
What do you think we need for promotion now?
I think if we were to get 2 home wins, against Harrogate and Accrington, and then a draw at Newport and Crewe,
it might be enough.
I think that 8 points get us on to 80 would be just about enough. I think.
What
do you two think, Frankie does?
It's probably. Hopefully, it's probably like 2 wins. You could probably get by with 1 win if the score goes our way. But that's just about. But that is just about. But it is most likely going to be 2 wins. But with Simon saying 2 home wins, we're more likely to get 2 away wins than we are to get 2 home wins. That's the problem.
The one positive that come out of yesterday was we moved a game closer to the finishing line without anybody really damaging us.
Yeah,
I was before. Well, for a couple of weeks, 81 looked the number we needed to get to. It's probably 80 now, given everybody tripping up again yesterday. I think getting 81 is going to prove tough. As you say, 3 wins in 4. But at the same time, getting 8 points, 2 wins and 2 draws, given our form, looks tough as well. You know, 80, I think 81 to be sure. The one thing that we did have until yesterday was goal difference. Everybody had an inferior goal difference.
That's all out the window, that.
And that last goal may well hurt us. You know, at some stage, Wimbledon are now in a better place than us in terms of goal difference. But I think 80.
Yep.
I just want to. I've got a question I'm going to pose, but just before I go for that, I just want to remind people that we've got sort of super thanks on there and also channel membership, and we also add in new partners for next season. One guy that's just come on board with us is, if I can get this right, hang on, M&S Walsall Gardening Supplies. So that's Complete Tree and Gardening Services. He's joining us for next season, and we've got a couple more coming on as well. So we'll be talking more about them. Thanks very much to Cleaning with Class, Smash Burgers, and of course Leemore Windows for supporting the channel and helping and all that business. So my next question: if Alfie Chang and George Hall are not fit enough to play 90 minutes, should we start with them and then replace them with the likes of Lakin and Jellis, and maybe try to get ahead in a game, and then have Jellis and Lakin sort of trying to shore things up and get us over the line? Or is chasing the game, bringing them on late, a better option? Take that one to Phil.
I would keep George Hall on the bench and bring him on. I think he can make an impact coming off the bench, and I don't think he's fit enough to start a game at the moment. I'd be tempted to throw Alfie Chang. Well, I would, if I'd been in charge. You would have seen a lot more of him, but I'm not. So, but I'd be tempted to throw him in on Friday to see what he can do. But I want to go back. I'm pretty sure it was Daz that made this point last time. I think he's almost backed himself into a corner. I think if he, with not playing Chang, I think if he threw him in on Friday and he had a stormer, everyone would just turn around and go, well, where the hell's he been for the last 15 games? I think that's one of the problems he's got there.
I think if we got promoted, I don't think anybody'd care, really. But I mean, I understand what you're saying. Do you agree with that, Frankie? I think you're probably better off if you've got a player that's not 100% fit, just bringing him off the bench. Is that safer to do that?
Well, he's not our player. That is the end of the rule. If we get promoted and he scores a winning goal, but he ends up being injured for another year, yes, that's Barron's career, and I don't wish that upon him. But that does happen. That might not affect us as massively as it could have. If it's our own player, then that's out for another season. But at this point, getting promoted is the main thing. And yes, it would be nice if he didn't get injured. But if he gets injured and he's out and Birmingham don't see him for a bit, then he gets us the winning goal. We get promoted. Sometimes you've got to take those things, and I don't wish him to get injured. I'm just saying sometimes you've got to take them.
How about starting Alfie Chang and then switching him with Hall, perhaps sort of using both of them in the game? It's not going to happen now, is it? He's going to play.
No chance.
Why not Ram?
Because I was just going to say, I think get Daz, Darren,
Andy Phillips is there.
I think that's a really good point about Ram. I'd be interested to know what you think about that.
I said 10 minutes ago, didn't I? I'd have him in the squad straight away. He's done well at Tamworth. We know he's a creative player. I go back to, I guess Dad was there. I go back to his performance when he came on last year or the year before at Blackburn away in the early part of the season. He scored a great goal from outside the box. Looked brilliant. Right. He can do, he's a footballer. Bring him in. It can't be any worse than what we've got. And I just feel sorry for him, to be honest with you. I just don't think he fits that system, does he? Where does he put? He won't trust him to play as one of those eights because that's his position. I think if we had a 4-2-3-1 or something where he can play as one of those attacking midfielders, go back to the Dean Smith era, I think that would suit him perfectly. But I'd get him in. I'd get Chang in. These are unaffected by the capitulation. But yeah, Daz, I don't know what you think, but
I'd absolutely. I think there's a place for him. He's the one player that hasn't been through the turmoil of the last 2.5 months. It's deeper than ability. I think it has to be because he doesn't make any sense. I feel for Ram. I have to say. I think I've said on many podcasts and this that I don't quite get it. It's yesterday. Darren was there. Yesterday was like Drogheda away. We ran around for 90 minutes.
I was thinking that about half an hour ago.
We cluelessly ran around for 90 minutes against Drogheda and looked abysmal, absolutely abysmal. And anyone who's there will tell you exactly the same. The one shining light that night was Ram.
Absolutely.
And the only difference between Drogheda away and yesterday was he hadn't got Ram to chuck on to get him a goal.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's so funny. I was literally thinking, like, the performance yesterday reminded me of Drogheda because they got booed off at Drogheda in a pre-season friendly. Right. We got booed off because we were awful. It was long ball. It's just really funny. When you mentioned about people wandering aimlessly, I thought you were on about my children, but...
The other thing is about Ram that we need. We spoke earlier on about confidence, didn't we? About how certain players might be lacking confidence.
Yeah.
Ram's coming off the back of another very fruitful loan spell at Tamworth, where he's been playing regularly. He's been getting a few goals. He's been getting rave reviews. Confidence is something he will have at the moment.
Yeah, get him in. Get these players in. Yeah, but we're saying this won't happen.
I think I've got more chance of a date with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah,
I mean,
actually, she's due in Cannock next week.
I keep trying, but the stalking laws are going, you know.
One thing there's one thing we haven't really talked about, and that you mentioned, Simon, is these players that are in bad form don't get taken out. So yesterday, McGinty makes a bad ball, and his face it just like shriveled up, as he's angry at himself. He shouldn't be playing. Like, he should be having a rest game if he's playing so bad in form. Why is Sadler consistently playing players who they know themselves aren't playing well? That is, you've got to manage the
question as well. Where is Harry Williams? Does anyone know?
The media team aren't going to ask where Harry Williams is, are they?
What is going on? Ridiculous, in my opinion. I mean, they're ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be careful here because there's obviously rumours about what's going on with Harry Williams, but I don't really care whether, you know, there's talk about possibly signing a pre-contact agreement elsewhere. Who knows? All I know is that I just think Sadler's cutting his nose off to spite his face by not playing him at the moment. That's all I think.
But you say that Williams is leaving. Isn't McKinty's could be rumours of him going to Hibernia?
Yeah.
There's a contract.
Yeah.
People think these agents are not talking to other clubs now. They're living in cloud cuckoo land, right? I'm sure they're all talking to agents now. It's ridiculous. That, for me, is a ridiculous theory. I just find it. All these players, you know, is he going to drop half the team then? Because they're talking to the clubs.
For me, it's simple. You're employed by, at the moment, you're employed by Walsall Football Club, and our job is to get promoted. And you play the players that are going to get you.
Yeah, get out the league.
Regardless.
It doesn't matter whether you've got 3 years on your contract or 3 days on your contract. Everybody wants a promotion on the CV.
Yeah, they're professionals. You know, I find it maddening, to be honest with you.
Andy Phillips has made a comment here. Sadler's too nice at times. Need to manage to have a nasty streak and give him a rollicking. I don't know whether it's a good cop, bad cop with Gary Waddock, but I mean, Sadler, I think the Hayden White interview that was sort of taken down very promptly. He talked about Matt Sadler is sort of a very positive everything all the time, and he says you can't do that. Sometimes players need a bit of a kick up the arse, and maybe Sadler's too nice a guy, perhaps.
I just don't. If you listen to his interview after the game yesterday, it's as if nothing's. I know that could be a good thing, right? But it's just, I don't know if I'm living in a parallel universe. I want to see the passion, you know what I mean? Like, what? It's just like, oh, you know, we're going to go on the training ground in the week. Everything's fine. Like, I don't know what.
I saw it earlier. The Blues game against Peterborough, and the Blues manager Chris Davis, I think it is. He's quite a fairly calm guy, but he was jumping up and down, screaming at the players. Matt Sadler never screams at anybody, does he? I bet he don't even scream at his kids.
There's a time and a place, though, isn't that? You know, you want to be composed most of the time, but I just feel it's just so flat. Everything's, you know, the second half against Vale, it was quiet, silence. Yeah. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just feel the fans are quite passionate, obviously, but I don't know. Like, it seems so flat across the whole thing.
It would be nice on Friday against Harrogate if he does sharpen it up with some more flair players and gives Ram proper minutes. Obviously, the home fans, they want somebody they can get behind, and a sort of like a homegrown player like Ram is never going to be criticised for playing a player like Ram, like even if it doesn't work.
If Ram starts on Friday, you'll know somebody else is picking the team.
That is very clear. That is very clear. There's no universe where he plays. Like I think he should be in the squad. I've said it many times. If he is a starter, or even probably in the squad on Saturday, if he's a starter, definitely I'll be wondering who's picking the team.
if he's in the squad, I'll be wondering who's had a word. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
The thing is, Ram should have come in when Hall and Earing got injured. That was the time for Ram to be getting involved, and he never got a sniff.
I do wonder. We lost Lowe, I think, because Walters at Stoke, who's the director of football. I don't think it was Robbins. I strongly suspect Walters was getting pelters from everywhere, and he wanted a good news story being removed because I think it was becoming a stick to beat him with. And I think that's happened. I think that's happened elsewhere with us, and I do wonder if I don't know the situation with Ram's loan, whether it ran out, just ran out, or Walsall refused to extend it. But I do wonder if it was ended, if there's a similar thing going on there, because when you can't do anything going forward, and we keep reading that the lad is doing well at Tamworth, it becomes a stick. You know, I do wonder if there's some of that. I'm not saying it is, not at all, but it does. It'd be naive not to mention it or think about it.
Yeah. Well, he's back now. He's back. He's back. So he's. I
think it's the limit of the youth loans. I think that's what.
Fair enough.
I could be wrong though, Dad. To be fair, but
I'm happy to be wrong, and I'm happy to kind of take that back if I'm wrong. But I definitely think that's how.
If he comes in the squad, I think you're right. I think that would be like someone's had a word.
We definitely lost Lowe because he was too much of a stick to be.
Yeah. I think he's too stubborn. There's more. Let's all face it. There's more chance of Josh Gordon playing up front on Friday than Ram being in that squad. So
yeah. Fallen Maniacs comment there. If Chang can't get a game, there's no hope for Ram. That is one. I think somebody's stating the obvious here. Phil Burton, does Sadler survive the summer if we don't get promoted?
No chance.
I don't think.
I think he will, but I don't think he should. But I've got a feeling he might.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well,
Trivella need to be careful
anyway because we're still going.
Trivella need to be careful because they at some point they will replace Sadler, but January doesn't go away.
Yeah. No.
January will stick for a long time, and this will stick for a long time. They can sack a manager, but the cloud will loom for a while if we don't do it.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's if you do, it's who you bring in. It's somebody with some experience, perhaps, rather than just a newbie.
Simon, can I just answer that? That's on the screen.
Yeah, go on.
Jack makes a fair point, and absolutely, I respect his point completely. But could Ram be any blander than what we've seen in the last 10 games?
I don't think.
And then
sorry, Frankie, go on.
To add with this, when me and Simon went to the thing about the academy spotlight, they did talk about how we have quite lightweight players, but then they said that doesn't affect players that we already have like Sturk and Jennings, and then that does make sense because a lot of our academy players are quite lightweight, quite much smaller than you'd expect, but they're still what we're expecting to get to the main team.
Yeah,
playing in the National League, I'm sure it's not like go kids go or something. In the National League, he's going to really well there. Like
people that haven't seen Ram play say he's too lightweight. You watch him in a game. He's not lightweight.
He's lightweight.
He's small. He's not a 6-footer, but he's
not going to play in centre half, are you?
He's not playing centre half.
He's not playing centre half. He's
a lot better higher up the pitch, granted, and it's finding a place for him up the pitch.
Yeah.
So we're always going to have small players going forward because of the way that the academy system hoovers up footballers, and the only way you're gonna find talented footballers is the ones that fall through the cracks in terms of height, weight, or running ability. That if you can play and you're the right height, you're the right weight, and the right running metrics, you're going to be part of an academy. We're always going to have players that are short or light or kind of that don't fit the perfect academy kind of metrics.
Yeah.
It's always going to be the case moving forward.
Two things very quickly on Ram from me. I assume most of us remember it, but I remember he came on at Blackburn in the League Cup at the start of last season, and he made a real impact in the game. I think he came on on the right side of a front three. He showed some lovely touches. He scored a goal, and I thought that would be a moment where he'd kick on. And we've seen we've seen far too little of him from that point on. And I think there's a danger with young players when they come in, if they have a little bit of an off day, that they get cast aside too quickly. I think you've got to trust them. You've got to keep giving them minutes. The more minutes they get, the better they'll become. But he's never had, certainly not at Walsall, the opportunity to have a prolonged period where even if he's just coming off the bench for 20 minutes here, 25 minutes there, that's the only way he's gonna get better.
Same with Wheatley. Wheatley needed more game time.
Yeah, bring him on for the last, but like Phil's spot on. Like when has Ram or Wheatley or anyone recently, young players, think back, just looking at Ram, when have we had a period of even 10 games where he's come on for the last 10, 15, 20 minutes, regularly? Literally has never happened at this football club. So,
and why is it? Why is it? I know I've had a bit of a laugh with Stephen about this. It's slightly off subject, to be honest. But if a player scores, he gets dropped for the next game. What's all that about? Amanchi scores against Port Vale, gets Lakin. I can remember Lakin scored. I can't remember the game. He scored and he was dropped for the next match. Why do we keep dropping players when they score? It's like madness.
But then also playing well.
Yeah. Well, the good one that we've been talking about, Ram. I know it's last season or the season before. I think it must have been the season before. It was at home to Forest Green. We were playing absolutely awful. Ram came on 60 minutes, and he was our man of the match. Last 30 minutes, he was excellent.
Yeah,
and then didn't get another game. Chang, that 10 minutes at Gillingham, doesn't get another game. What? Oh.
I don't know. My theory is how I see this panning out. Like, I hope I'm wrong, but I think we'll see just a continuation of what we've seen the last few weeks. Like, I think we'll see his strong favourites in again on Friday. Laugh about Josh Gordon. I think he loves him, doesn't he? So I think we'll see him on the bench at the expense of someone, probably DJ. I don't know. That would be mad. I think we'll see. I wouldn't even be surprised if Priestley makes an appearance as well after that.
He'll probably play the last match of the season.
Yeah. So I just think it'll be a continuation. I'd be very surprised if it's any. He's literally not changed it before. So why would he change it now?
Yesterday when we lost, Sadler was nowhere near him. It was all Byfield. It was he was there
ran down the touchline,
and then it was like going playing against Rochdale with Flynn. Flynn ran across the touchline. Same thing. He wasn't there to set Ucup, and he had a Doma and Byfield having to talk to the fans. Why isn't Sadler there taking the abuse instead of his players? It was like one of those questionable things. Like if any good manager would take the abuse themselves, it was such a.
And on that subject, Brad, like I've never heard him in a post. I don't want to go on about this too much, but I've never heard him in a post-match interview do what you've just suggested and say, like, look, I got that wrong, just to protect the players a bit and, take it on the chin almost. I've never heard him do that ever in 2 years. Never heard him do that. at all.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're living in a bubble almost. Like you think, like I said, that interview, it seems like we've just lost it. We've got 2 wins. We haven't won in 10 games. I want to see something from these players. Like, I'm glad they got angry, to be honest, at the end. Maybe that'll give a rocket of them, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I think we need that aggression and need that passion. I think there was words exchanged with Jellis and some fans and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But Jellis is, like as you say, first year pro. He's absolutely exhausted. He's trying stuff that's just not working. He must be so frustrated himself. It's not through lack of desire and not through lack of lack of energy is one, but it's not lack of desire. It's just.
I think you can just look at this comment below. Sorry, here, and I think this is kind of, you can answer this question in 2 ways. So, what has happened to the 3-man press? It's all gone, no energy, fatigue. But as we talked about earlier, teams have just worked out how to play against it. They don't knock the ball around the back anymore. They get it up into the channels quickly, and like we've been worked out, and there's no plan B. So it's a bit of fatigue, but also a bit of other teams have sussed it after the first half of the season, and they just get it. They just get rid of it. We can't do the 3-man press because there's no. How can you be a pressing team if there's nothing to press?
Yeah. Right then, we're going to finish off with 3 a bit of comedy and a rousing call, right?
I didn't think you'd be allowed to show the goals from yesterday.
We'll probably give Preachley a new 3-year contract to keep our physio in the job. That's a good one. I like that. I think this one touches on. Darren's covered this one already. Sadler will be helping. Josh Gordon will be fit enough for this weekend. Can't wait to fit him back in.
Jesus.
Oh dear.
I can see him scoring the winner at Newport or something. Like, I'm going to channel.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'll take it. I'm channeling it now. Like, doesn't change.
As much as we're frustrated and feeling sick, Matt Sadler still is our manager. Walsall are our team, and on Friday we need to be back behind them, loud and proud, and spur them on for every minute. And hopefully we can roar them on to victory and turn this round. And if we can do that, and if Salford do us a favour on Tuesday, then we're in pound seats with 3 games to go. Right then, and we'll leave on that happy note. If you haven't, for those who have put me a super thanks on, thank you very much for that. And also members, you can join the membership thingy, and if you want to promote your business through Walsall Fan TV, get the voice out to local Walsall fans and the sorts, then get in touch. My details are in the comments. Frankie, a win on Friday?
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
Phil, win on Friday?
I really hope so. I mean, look, after everything we've said, as you rightly say, Simon, we're still behind the boys, we're still behind them, we still want this, and we're still in a great position. A win on Friday will make everybody feel a hell of a lot better and give us a little bit of renewed optimism for the end of the season. So, yeah, let's go and do the job on Friday.
Yeah, nice one, Daz.
We just got to stick together, haven't we? Whatever happens, we just need to stick together. I think we've been brilliant all season. Support has been outstanding. Just need to hold it together, and plenty of time for repercussions after. But hopefully, we won't need it.
That's it. Well, we can talk about whether Sadler deserves to have a bash in League One after we've got promoted. Darren, we're going to win on Friday.
I think we're going to win. I'm going to channel it, like, basically based on statistics and the probability that we should win at some point.
And the joy will return. The joy will return on Friday, and we'll have a fun last few games to celebrate promotion and have a nice summer. That'll be good. Right then, thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks everybody also for listening on the podcast. Thank you. Join the